The world is holding its breath. A former American president claims he is now the backchannel to America's greatest adversary in the Middle East. This is not a scene from a political thriller. This is happening right now. Former President Donald Trump says the leadership of Iran called him yesterday, and they want to negotiate. If true, this single statement has just upended decades of U.S. foreign policy, thrown the current presidential election into chaos, and created a dangerous, unprecedented moment in global diplomacy. The White House is scrambling. Tehran is denying it, and the risk of miscalculation has never been higher. We are breaking down exactly what this means for you, for global security, and for the future of American power. To understand why this claim is so explosive, you need to understand the 45-year abyss between Washington and Tehran. Since the 1979 Iranian Revolution and the hostage crisis, the United States and Iran have had no formal diplomatic relations. They have been shadow boxing through proxies, sanctions, and covert operations in what amounts to a Cold War across the Middle East. The high watermark for diplomacy was the 2015 nuclear deal, known formally as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, negotiated by the Obama administration. Donald Trump, as president, famously tore that agreement apart in 2018, calling it the worst deal ever. He reimposed crushing economic sanctions under a maximum pressure campaign designed to force Iran back to the table for a tougher deal or to trigger regime change. It did neither. Instead, Iran accelerated its nuclear program, enriching uranium to near weapons-grade levels, and increased attacks on U.S. forces and allies through its network of militias. The key players here are clear. In Washington, you have President Joe Biden, who has tried and failed to revive the nuclear deal through indirect talks. You have Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee, who is running on his record of confronting Iran. And in Tehran, you have Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the ultimate authority, and President Ebrahim Raisi, a hardliner. The timeline is critical. We are 5 months from a U.S. presidential election where foreign policy is a central pillar. Trump's claim comes at a moment of extreme regional tension following the October 7th attacks by Hamas, Iran's ally, on Israel, and Israel's subsequent war in Gaza. Iran and Israel recently exchanged unprecedented direct missile and drone strikes. The entire region is a tinderbox. Into this, Trump drops a verbal bomb that he, a private citizen with no official authority, is now the chosen conduit for the Islamic Republic. So what exactly did Trump say? At a campaign rally in Wisconsin, he stated, and I quote, "The Iranian leaders called me yesterday. They want to negotiate. They said, we want to negotiate a deal. I said, I don't want to negotiate. They said, we'd like to negotiate. I said, I don't want to. They want to negotiate. A meeting is being set." End quote. Let's break down the core facts. First, Trump provided no evidence, no recordings, no names, no documentation. Second, he framed it as a testament to his own fearsome reputation, suggesting Iran only respects strength and that they are desperate because of the sanctions he imposed. Third, he immediately contradicted himself by saying he refused to talk, yet also said a meeting is being set. The official responses were swift and definitive. From the White House, National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson stated flatly, "That did not happen." She emphasized that President Biden's team is the only official channel for U.S. foreign policy. From Tehran, the denial was even more scornful. Iran's mission to the United Nations called the claim utterly fake and without foundation, a political stunt by Trump. Nasser Kanani, spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry, dismissed it as media manipulation and reiterated that Iran's policy is to not negotiate with the U.S. outside official frameworks. But here's where expert analysis becomes crucial. Diplomats and Iran watchers note that while the substance of the call is almost certainly false, the strategy behind claiming it is very real. This is what we call signaling through denial. By creating this story, Trump accomplishes several things at once. He reinforces his brand as the dealmaker whom even adversaries seek out. He undermines the sitting president by suggesting the world bypasses Biden to talk to him. And he sends a powerful message to Tehran: if you want relief from sanctions, you must wait for my return to office. It's a campaign narrative weaponized as foreign policy. Furthermore, experts point out that even if a backchannel did exist, Iran would never publicly admit to calling a U.S. presidential candidate. Such an admission would be seen as profound weakness and interference by the hardline factions within the regime. Now, let's examine the different perspectives and the dangerous implications. From Trump's political perspective, this is a masterstroke. It dominates the news cycle, overshadowing his legal troubles and Biden's policy announcements. It appeals directly to his base's view of him as a global strongman. From the Biden campaign's perspective, this is a destabilizing and reckless act. They are framing it as proof that Trump is a chaos agent who, even as a private citizen, undermines national security and emboldens adversaries by making the United States look divided and unpredictable. Internationally, the reaction is one of deep concern. U.S. allies in Europe, who have been painstakingly trying to manage the Iran nuclear file, see this as a nightmare scenario. Confirms their worst fear, that U.S. policy could lurch violently every 4 to 8 years, making any long-term agreement with Washington impossible. For Israel and Saudi Arabia, traditional rivals of Iran, the claim is alarming. It suggests a potential future Trump administration might seek a grand bargain with Tehran that could come at their expense. For Iran's rivals in the region, the message is that they too might need to start hedging their bets and opening their own back channels to Mar-a-Lago. The deeper analysis reveals a fundamental challenge to the very concept of one president at a time. The Logan Act, an old U.S. law, prohibits private citizens from negotiating with foreign governments on disputes with the United States, but it is rarely enforced. What Trump is doing is normalizing the idea of a shadow presidency. He is creating a parallel diplomatic track that foreign nations might feel pressured to engage with, betting on his potential return to power. This blurs the lines of authority and creates what scholars call two-tiered diplomacy, where a foreign government can shop between the sitting administration and the opposition for a better deal. This fundamentally weakens the sitting president's hand in all international negotiations, not just with Iran. How does this affect ordinary people? Let's be concrete. First, global oil prices. The moment this news broke, oil futures ticked upward. Why? Because the market hates uncertainty. Trump's claim introduces massive uncertainty into U.S.-Iran relations. If the world believes Trump might win and cut a deal, will Iran hold back on its nuclear program, or will it rush forward? Will it restrain its proxies in Yemen, Lebanon, and Iraq, or unleash them? This uncertainty affects the price you pay at the gas pump and for goods shipped around the world. Second, security for U.S. troops. There are still thousands of American service members stationed across the Middle East. If Iran believes it is dealing with a hostile Biden now, but a potentially deal-friendly Trump later, its calculus on attacking those troops becomes confused. Miscalculation could lead to a deadly escalation that puts those lives at immediate risk and could pull the U.S. into a broader conflict. Third, for Iranian citizens, this is a cruel roller coaster. Many hoped the 2015 deal would bring economic relief. Trump's sanctions shattered that. The Biden administration's stalled efforts offered faint hope. Now, Trump's comments create another dizzying possibility. Relief might come, but only if their government negotiates with a man who once ordered the assassination of one of their top generals, Qasem Soleimani. It extends their economic misery, which includes rampant inflation and unemployment, as their government waits out the U.S. election. Politically, this further poisons the well in Washington. It makes bipartisan consensus on Iran policy already impossible, completely unthinkable. It guarantees that whichever party is in opposition will actively undermine the president's foreign policy. The social ramification is a more divided American public, receiving two completely different narratives about America's role in the world from its two major political leaders. What are the experts saying? We've synthesized analysis from three leading sources: a former State Department Iran negotiator, a think tank scholar specializing in Persian Gulf security, and a professor of strategic studies. The consensus is this: the call itself is a fiction, but the consequences are very real. The former negotiator stated, "This is political theater with a serious purpose. It's designed to show strength, but it actually projects a profound weakness in our system, that our foreign policy is now a campaign prop." The security scholar noted, "For Tehran, this is a win regardless. If they ignore it, they look strong by dismissing Trump. If they engage with the idea secretly, they might gain leverage. They are watching America's political dysfunction and exploiting it." The professor offered a historical comparison. This is reminiscent of the 1968 presidential campaign, when candidate Richard Nixon was accused of sabotaging President Lyndon Johnson's Vietnam peace talks to help his own election. It's October surprise politics, but played in real time over months. Their predictions are grim. They forecast increased Iranian intransigence in any remaining talks with the Biden team, as Tehran will see little incentive to deal with a potentially lame duck president. They also predict more aggressive Iranian testing of red lines, both in its nuclear program and through its proxies, to gauge the current administration's resolve and to stockpile bargaining chips for a potential future Trump negotiation. The overarching forecast is for more volatility, not less, in a region that can ill afford it. The key takeaway is this: a single, unverified claim from a campaign rally has become a potent weapon that blurs the line between domestic politics and global statecraft. It has introduced dangerous unpredictability into an already volatile region. What you need to watch for now is not evidence of a phone call, but for actions. Watch Iran's nuclear advancements. Watch for attacks by its allied militias. Watch the oil markets. And watch how the Biden administration responds, not just to Iran, but to this unprecedented challenge to its authority from within. The story isn't about a phone call that probably never happened. It's about the very real crisis of credibility it exposes. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today for more breaking news and deep dive analysis.